Welcome to recording 2. It's time for it's time for me to rant about chapter 13 now. Okay. Alright. So, there's something about this planet. There's a big fucking psychic dragon that is protecting it from infections. There is infections. There is the fact that, like, all sorts of alien species with technologies millennia above our own somehow cannot get off of this fucking planet. Including a literal time traveler who has a time machine that still cannot get off of this planet.
Could have invested in a space machine, idiot.
Everyone's brain was put into a big computer that is remotely piloting robot bodies, and somehow the robot bodies are still walking around with thoughts and memories after the computer was destroyed. There's the fact that everyone is speaking a different language, but can still somehow understand each other. There is the fact that the very final cutscene of the original game involves Lau waking up on a beach. For those of you who don't know who the fuck Lau is, he literally died at the end of chapter 12. And he just wakes up on the beach. Like the final scene is you see him shirtless on some sand, it zooms in on his face, his eye opens up as like an ominous boom movie effect plays, and then it cuts to black, and then you get booted back to like the standard like player mode after like a really long ending cutscene, right? And people will...
Explains all the terraforming. That's what the sand's for.
Ah, yes, of course. The clue are the people who create the background assets, obviously. So, 10 years. We had to wait 10 years to get any context on what the fuck any of that meant, right? And like, obviously not all of it would be particularly satisfying. Plans will probably change at some point, but like, we still wanted answers, damn it. We wanted to know...
The problem is they had answers, but they used them in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
To great appeal.
Yeah. So, 10 years. And we're just like, just tell us what the fuck is up with this planet. You wanna know what they did instead? Actually, no, I can't tell you that. I have to further impress onto you why I am so angry about Chapter 13.
Oh, I'm impressed.
Because I am very mad. So, the original Wii U release, the original 12 chapters of story, and like all of the original side quest stuff in the game, all of it was about humanity having lost their home, forming new friends and allies, and slowly working to make a new life on the new planet they found themselves on, right? It is a very hopeful message about like cooperation and striving through difficulty and like building something new. So, a lot
They're gonna kill everybody, aren't they?
A lot of the quests are about terraforming and finding ways to survive on this planet, trying to make it the new Earth. Do you want to know how Chapter 13 ends?
They either blow up the planet, they go to Earth. It was all a dream.
Mira gets sucked into a black hole. And they use a bootleg Xenogears from hit PS1 game Xenogears to travel to another dimension.
Oh, fun.
So, the first 12 chapters of this game, 10 years of questions and build-up, all of the playtime you put into trying to make this planet somewhere habitable for humanity, none of it mattered. All of it got thrown into a black hole.
I'm just glad they didn't all wake up in a 21st century middle school, quite frankly. The restraint there is commendable.
Well, I mean, there was that time in Future Redeemed where everyone just got teleported into a North American suburb.
Oh, no.
Have you not
I really am pro Chapter 13.
Future Redeemed's final hours is a wild fucking ride, and I do not have time to go into radio lore.
No, I'm good. I'm good. So tell me who took your pizza?
Okay. Takahashi took all of my emotional investment into this world, my interest, my excitement, my love of this setting that made X unique and different compared to the rest of Xenoblade, and said, fuck you. He threw it into a black hole, framed it around some fucking stupid-ass villain. Okay, so the villain of Chapter 13 is this guy named Void. He is the Great One. He is the guy who created the Ganglion, who are the main antagonists of the original game, right? So, like, 13 comes out, or Chapter 13 happens, and we finally get to see the Great One that they worshipped, that was the original pilot of the big final robot that's the original final boss, right? We get to meet him, and his name is Void. Do you want to know what Void wants to know? Do you want to know what his motivation is?
What's on the other side of the black hole?
That's not the worst guess ever. Okay. Void wants to know death.
Oh.
So...
He's come to the right place. No, he's come to the wrong place. Nobody dies on Mira.
Exactly. Well, actually, they do. But we'll get to why I'm angry about Lao later.
Okay.
So the whole deal with Void, and we don't get explained this until near the very end of Chapter 13, which, by the way, Chapter 13 is broken into 3 acts because it's really fucking long. But it's broken into 3 acts, and they still filled it with filler content. Because the last third of Act 2 is just filler missions. And it's like, why would you have this here? Instead of these filler missions, why didn't you just make a second required mission that we have to do to unlock Act 3, but still kept it as a separate mission, so that I'm not stalled out of doing any of my affinity missions to recruit and enhance other characters instead? Because, you can't do affinity missions while a story mission is playing, and you can't accept a story mission during affinity missions. So, the fact that, you made this long-ass story mission that has a bunch of filler baked into it is kind of annoying from a gameplay perspective.
So they really didn't want to answer this, and when they had to go back and remake this game, they're like, shit.
Yeah, Xenoblade X, up until a couple weeks ago, had absolutely nothing to do with 1, 2, and 3. And then they retroactively said, actually, it's also in the same multiverse that all these other games are in, and our new special OC, Alois Bernholt, has canonically seen all 3 Xeno games, which means he's probably also had to have witnessed Rex having his harem orgy at some point.
Okay, some guys just like to watch.
I have mixed feelings about Al.
He feels like my self-insert in that he is witnessing all of Xenoblade as a franchise from a very dubious distance, and he's got a massive cock.
Hey Quack, how's it poppin'?
Oh, it's poppin', buddy.
So, Alois, I've mentioned it in my other server, but I don't think you're in that one. So, and I'm not sure if I'm necessarily making the right comparison, but, and this is me being favorable, this is the part of me that's favorable towards him. He's basically a bodhisattva, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, where he's this fucking guy who somehow, and okay, I'm just gonna start spouting Xeno meta plot shit now, so get ready. Mm-hmm. Prepare for conflation of terminology from 2 entirely different franchises in a legal sense to just be all referred to as the same thing, because they're all the same fucking thing, just names fought off for legal reasons.
Fire of flame.
Alois made contact with the wave existence in the space between worlds within the upper domain, witnessed all of Xeno combined, and then returned to reality to help everyone get off of Mira so that Takahashi can sweep all of Xenoblade X under the rug and get to the story he actually wanted to tell.
He's so cool.
This guy, who is implied to have died in the opening cutscene of the game before you even get to see the customizable player avatar, the scene that is mostly just meant to be context for what the fuck is happening in a plot beat sense rather than a meta plot sense, right? The sequence of events that make up the story rather than the lore, what clusterfuck, right? This guy's implied to have already fucking died. And Chapter 13 happens, and it's like, actually, he's still alive. He was just in the space between dimensions, marathoning the entire Xeno series. And he's back now, and he's the coolest dude ever, and everyone loves him. And his catchphrase, his gimmick is he asks people, how's it poppin'?
How's it poppin'?
Terrible. How about you?
He's the guy in universe who comes in and is like, hey, you guys think we should maybe cross-examine that cowboy? I don't think he has eyes anymore.
Nah, he's just sleeping.
Sorry, man, if I had known it was your pizza, I wouldn't have eaten the whole thing. That's a kind of ancient history now, man.
Well, okay, so Al is supposed... I compare him to a bodhisattva because not only has he basically reached enlightenment, seen the cosmic truth of the universe, and decided, I'm come back and help people anyway, because that's what I want to do.
You read the tie-in manga.
Yeah. He was sitting in the corner while the author wrote the tie-in manga.
He translated that interview.
Well, no, that was Mira, because Mira auto-translates everything for everyone. You gotta remember. Keep up.
Alois is not the kind of fool who trusts machine translation. Bro whips out his verbal word-by-word dictionary and understands the context based on tone and inflection. He's that kind of guy.
His weapons are the longsword, which is the most busted in terms of pure super ultra big dick damage weapon in the game. So he's got the big damage sword, and his other weapon is
very long.
And his other weapon is the sniper rifle. In the Wii U version, the sniper rifle is kind of mediocre, but he gets a unique art that is just like a super omega giga buff to like fucking everything, and it's on the sniper rifle. And obviously the player can get it once they recruit him because Cross is funny. Like that's like the official in terms of referring to him, but like you could like that's the default name for the player character. It's Cross.
I call him 10.
Yeah. Like you can call him whatever the fuck you want, right? You're supposed to call him whatever you want, you know. But Cross they're not mute. You get dialogue choices, they're not voiced, but like they're clearly implied to be actually talking, you just never hear as a player outside of combat. But like Cross is basically this mute autistic freak who is ungodly good at combat, but is otherwise completely irrelevant to whatever the fuck is happening. So it sort of feels like the actual main characters are just dragging this massive, like, this screamingly overpowered guy they found off the side of the road. So, it basically, imagine if you were playing a Fire Emblem game, but instead of playing the Lord, you're playing as, like, the mid-game, ungodly, unreasonably powerful recruit that is the hard carry for the rest of the story. You're that guy.
So Awakening.
Yeah, well, I would sooner say it's like imagine Fire Emblem Engage, but you're playing from the perspective of fucking Kagetsu.
Yeah, alright.
Like, half of the plot has already happened by the time you show up, but no one can get rid of you or sweep you under the rug because you are that unreasonably powerful for no reason.
I just want to note, first of all, you said unreasonably powerful for no reason. Second, You uttered the word autistic with more terrified reverence than you did bodhisattva.
Yes!
You really are a Gundam fan.
I like the plastic robots.
Yeah, but the whole lore of Gundam is like enlightenment, autism.
Same thing. Something Hedgehog's dilemma.
Existence. Yeah, don't worry about it, man.
But yeah, Cross is just this freak. Freak is a term I use in power scaling sense for a person who, by all rights, should not be as powerful as they are. But for some reason, usually because they're the player character, they're just ungodly good at combat. And it's like, it doesn't matter if there's any in-universe explanation for how they do it. They just do it. Fuck you.
I've played my share of Persona 4.
Yeah. Like, well, it's funny you say that, because, I would call the Space Marine from Strange Journey a freak tier character, where with the shit you are going up against in that game, the fact that the Space Marine is just a guy, like a normal-ass human, like, granted, he's like a military human, so he's automatically out the gate more trained than like 90% of SMT protagonists. Like, there's Raido, and there's like Demi-Fiend and fucking Nanashi and like Nahobino. It's like the only people who level 1 out the gate are stronger than him or on his level are like people who have been training for this shit their entire life as well, or people who got shoved full of like super demon powers or whatever. But like, the difference is you remain as just like a normal human for like the greater majority of the game and are still able to just win against ungodly powerful things. Just as like a guy.
Well, maybe.
Well, yeah, you're probably gonna die a lot.
Successful on their blind playthrough, yeah.
Yeah, but like, you get my point, right? Where it's like, this guy should not be able to do half of the stuff he pulls off, but he does anyway because gameplay.
And so one of the things he can do is he can inherit Al's ability to ignore the refractory period on a sniper rifle.
Yes. So, and it's like, Cross is weird because like he invents 2 unique arts for the knife and the assault rifle that no one else gets. The first of them is just stabbing someone in the ribs, and the other one is bashing people in the face with the assault rifle, using a gun as a melee weapon to topple them. Those are his 2 unique arts that no other character can get. And he also, just by hanging out with people, learns their signature techniques and replicates it within like 1.5 meetings.
So cool.
And also he can master every weapon, every class line when everyone else is locked into one. So like I said, Cross is just this combat freak who is just so hyper capable that like, despite having absolutely nothing to do with any of this, they keep around because they're just that good, you know? Like I said, it's like playing Fire Emblem Engage, but you're Kagetsu instead of Alear, and you're just you're just this guy that Alear picked up off the side of the road. You're Chris. You're Chris from the not Shadow Dragon, but like the Fire Emblem 3 remake. Because like all the other Avatar characters have like fucking plot bullshit. Chris is just some guy who's like unreasonably capable for no reason.
Right, so let's get back to Marth.
Right,
let's get back to the real dude.
Yeah, so I gave my Cross blue hair, named him Marth, equipped the longsword, and then he helped kill gods. Actually. Yeah, Xenoblade X is like the only Xenoblade game where you don't kill some type of god at some point. Actually, no.
You said that Void was a god.
No, he's not. Void is this thing called a Samarian. So, the Samarians were like your standard, like, super ancient, hyper-advanced civilization, right?
Uh-huh.
And have you played Xenoblade 1 or 2?
No, but I've read the Bible. I know about Samaria.
Okay. Good. So there's this thing called the Zohar, which basically connects to this place called the upper dimension, the upper domain, which is basically just the collective unconsciousness, and also the space between worlds, and is a meta-universe manifold connecting every single separate dimension onto one singularity. It's a lot of things, but basically it's this big... It's a big thing that gives you infinite energy, and it usually ends up being used to power giant robots. So...
I've seen a documentary about Helena Blavatsky.
So, in Xenoblade 1, there's this guy named Klaus. Klaus is fucking around with the Zohar and blows up reality. This is why Xenoblade 2 happens, by the way. So...
Dude invented gacha?
Yes, he did, actually. It's more complicated than that. Basically, Klaus blew up the reality and split the universe in half.
He wanted to know where the hoes are, so he checked the Zohar.
Yes. And Dimension A is the one that Xenoblade 1 takes place in. In that dimension, he basically... So there's this thing called the Trinity Processor. It's 3 funny little crystals that are used to control the power of the Zohar. When Klaus blew up reality, one of the 3 of them got slurped into a pocket dimension, along with him and his lab assistant Galea. And this is the universe that Xenoblade 1 takes place in. In this universe, like, the half of Klaus that ended up in there and all of Galea, they don't have their memories, but instead they have incredible god powers. So they build gigantic bodies for themselves and have people live on and inside them as they just stand around in an infinite ocean forever. And then eventually...
Okay.
And then eventually Klaus, who calls himself Zanza for some reason, it's never really explained how he went from name A to name B, but like, in this universe his name is Zanza. It just is. You just have to accept that. It's Zanza, and Galea's name in this universe is Mayneth, right? And Zanza one day decides, you know what, I'm going to kill Mayneth because she's not okay with me genociding all life in the universe every couple bajillion years to basically recharge myself. Because that's how these two have been sustaining themselves. They cultivate life on themselves, eventually creating more total life juice than it took to create them in the first place. And when they start running low on their own life juice, they just eat all life to recharge and just do it over and over again. And Mayneth eventually went, this sucks, this is dumb, I want my kids to not be eaten by me to stay alive forever. And Zanza's like, that's fucking stupid, I'm going to kill you because if I don't, you'll throw a fit when I do it to my babies. So, they fight, and Zanza he wins, but like, he also takes a big sword to the gut, and so he falls unconscious. And then...
understanding the Tradwife picture a lot more now.
And that's eventually how Xenoblade 1 happens, but yeah, so that's where one half of Klaus went and all of Galea went. The other half of Klaus was stuck in Xenoblade 2 dimension. In that dimension, he's like, well, I accidentally threw all of humanity into different dimensions, scattered all over the place, assuming they're not just dead outright. So I am stuck on Earth with a bunch of technology, but nobody's left alive. So he eventually figures out how to create titans out of nanomachines, and the titans are what makes blades. So yes, Klaus invented gacha. He literally invented gacha, because, like, basically, titans poop out the core crystals that blades come out from, so... And he did this on purpose, because the blades eventually grow into titans after a couple bajillion being... Person touches crystal. Cute anime girl comes out of crystal. When person dies, they go back in the rock and lose all their memories. But while they're spawned in and when they're awakened, they absorb the life data off everything around them. So basically, they are copying and absorbing DNA and then using it to grow into Titan, which then uses that DNA to grow life on its body. And then it eventually poops out more blades. Or at least the core crystals for them. So yes, Klaus invented gacha.
So how does this fit into the grand unification of the Chapter 3 black hole debacle?
Right, so...
Sorry, chapter 13.
So as I said, there's this thing called the Zohar. Klaus, when he was fucking around with it, blew up his own dimension, basically, and killed everyone besides himself, and the people who survived all yeeted into different dimensions, right? And turns out that... So, in Xenoblade 1 verse, he's going on a massive god complex with god powers, and one third of the Trinity processor followed him there, and that's Alvis, or rather, that is Alvis, also known as Ontos, because that's the name of the actual core. Mm-hmm. And the other two are Numa and Logos. Logos is Malos. Basically, Klaus retrofitted the other two parts of the Trinity processor to be able to also become blades. So, the Logos core became Malos, who's the main antagonist of that game, and the Numa core became Pyra and Mithra. So then Xenoblade 2 happens, and at the end of Xenoblade 2, Klaus is like, hey, it's called the Conduit in Xenoblade instead of the Zohar, but it's the fucking Zohar. I'm gonna call it the Zohar. So he's like, hey, the Zohar is just gonna leave in like 10 minutes, so you better like go beat up Malos using your Zohar powers now before it leaves, because, you know, after it's gone, like, neither of you will have god powers, but he'll have all the giant robot army that he's gonna use to destroy the planet anyways, so like you should stop him now while the playing field is kinda even. So they beat up Malos, Malos dies, the Zohar goes away, and then Klaus just kind of dissolves because at the same time they kill Zanza in Xenoblade 1 dimension. So it's like, oh, well, the other half of my existence is dying. I guess it's time for me to die now. Bye. And he dies.
Or does he?
No, he dies. He's like super dead.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, like he fucking he died twice in two different dimensions.
More self-respect than Kingdom Hearts then.
So yeah, like Klaus super dead, not coming back. And the Ontos core became this guy named Alvis in Xenoblade 1 dimension, and then when Xenoblade 3 happened, he decided to turn himself into an anime girl instead.
Right, as one does.
As one does. I wish it was that easy in real life. So...
Just haven't fiddled with the Zohar long enough.
He literally just flipped a bit and became a cute girl.
That's what I call commitment to the bit. Exactly.
So anyway... and Xenoblade 3 is basically Earth, like, that dimension that Klaus accidentally split in half. The two chunks of it end up drifting back together, and a lot of crazy shit happens, and that's basically the aftermath of that is influenced by that in the first place. That is like, the mystery of what the fuck is happening is part of the plot of Xenoblade 3, but the two worlds crashing back into each other, and that being a problem, is like the background plot of 3. And like, what people did to not just get blown up by that happening is what causes 3 to happen. 3 is basically someone saying, basically, as the two worlds got close, they became able to talk to each other through like magic bullshit radios, right? Through fucking Zohar powers. I don't fucking know. They figured out how to do it. And like, hey, the universes are gonna collide together, and we're all gonna die because, like, antimatter, matter explosion shit, right? So they build a really big computer, like half in one dimension, half in the other, and it's programmed so that when the universes merge, it'll be completed, it'll store everyone's souls inside of it, withstand all of reality being blown up, and then recreate the universe and bring everyone back to life afterwards. It doesn't go as planned. Everyone realizing that they're about to die, and most of this, I presume, was kept secret from the public. So when the plan started to kick off, everyone realizing, oh shit, we're about to die, make it stop, kind of caused the reality computer to create a new consciousness called Zed. It's pronounced like, look, his name is like the letter Z, it's not Z-E-D, but like, everyone pronounces it Zed because they're British, and I would normally not pronounce Z like that, but like that's what they call him in the voice acting, and I think they pronounce it like that in the actual Japanese script too, so I'm just gonna play along and call him Zed.
Actually, it's Gekadoriru Bureku.
It's Lamau. Yeah, so this Zed guy, he's like, time is dumb and I want the present to last forever. So, he doesn't freeze time because there's still annihilation events, and it's implied that, like, his plan of an endless now is not sustainable, as it is in real life, because things are still collapsing. It may not be today or tomorrow, but eventually this whole stopped time mishmash world he has will destroy itself. So, like, even if he wins, he will eventually lose, so it's like stopping him, destroying the fake world of Ionios so that the big supercomputer can actually do what it's supposed to do and recreate everything after everything blows up. Like, that's the whole plot of 3. So, there's that, right? Basically, worlds meeting is bad because things explode. And that's why there are black holes happening in Mira, because reality has decided that it no longer wishes to exist and the entire dimension is getting swallowed by black holes. And the black holes shit out these things called ghosts, which are basically just the Gnosis from Xenoblade, from Xenosaga. These upper dimensional things that run on metaphysics and can turn people into piles of salt, just appearing and killing everything. So,
oh boy, we've gone Drakengard.
Yeah. So, ghosts are bad. Anyway, there's a cutscene near the end of Blade X at Chapter 13, Definitive Edition, where they're like, okay, so Void, back to Void. So Void was fucking around with the Zohar, but instead of accidentally blowing up reality, he invented the Xenogears. It's not called the Xenogears, it's called the Ares. If you don't know what the Xenogears is, I'm not talking about the video game, I'm talking about the giant robot from the end of the video game, when Faye basically talks to the Zohar, and it's like, hey, I'm going to take your giant robot and directly plug it into the infinite power of, like, the upper domain, and turn into a super duper robot, and it becomes the Xenogears. And it's the only robot that can operate after the Zohar leaves to another dimension, because it's, like, directly getting transmitted that juice from, like, super dimensional, I don't fucking know.
I was just joking earlier when I mentioned the Giga Drill Breaker, but fuck, they're actually just doing that.
Yeah, so the Xenogears is very fucking cool. And, like, every gear, which is what Xenogears, the game, calls the giant robots, is actually powered by the Zohar, but they use these things called slave reactors, which basically just remotely draw in energy from the Zohar, which is inside of this thing called Deus, which is a giant super alien, or not alien, like, it's invented by humanity, but, like, they made a super weapon, and the super weapon came to life, and they're like, yo, this thing is, like, too dangerous, we gotta get rid of it. So they take it out into space, and it destroys the ship, and they crash land, and then Xenogears happens. So, the point I'm trying to make is that this Void guy, he takes the Zohar juice, and builds, basically, legally distinct Xenogears. It's called the Ares, and it has the fucking funny cores where...
He made the Duskbloods.
Sure. He made the Ares, and there's this thing in Xenoblade 3 called interlinking, where Takahashi...
It's just making more and more sense.
Where basically the plot of the Xenoblade 3 has 2 plots. It has the fucking, oh my god, reality is slowly imploding at the speed of 500 years per second. So, like, the amount of destruction that would happen across whatever. The amount of destruction that happened across 1 second in normal time gets dragged out to, like, 500 years in Ionios time. So, You know, instead of stopping the problem, Zed just sort of slowed it down so much that, like, no one would notice it, but, like, it's still a problem. It is eventually going to end the world. So, like, the party cast in Xenoblade 3 have the power to interlink, where like, each of the three, like, love interest pairings can fusion dance and turn into a big thing. They don't turn into a robot, but it's basically the big robot of Xenoblade 3. And there's 6 of them, which is like one for each pair, and that one has 2 forms depending on like which of them is topping that particular day. So when like Noah and Mio interlink, when Noah's in charge, it's the gigantic buff thing with like the sword that turns into a skateboard or a surfboard. And when Mio is in control instead, it's a cat girl with roller skates that are also buzzsaws.
So it's either he was a skater boy, or she says, "See you later, boy."
Yes. Anyway, all the interlinks have this glowing circle core thing inside them. That's like where like the actual like souls of like the 2 people in the interlink are stored, right? That's the power source basically, right?
It's not a slave reactor, it's an S&M reactor.
Yeah. So it's full of interlink. So
it's consensual, it's different.
Yeah. So the Ares has 6 of those things in it.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
There aren't 12 party members, are there?
No, there aren't. Void basically took the Zohar and used it to create 6 super duper ultra mega hyper infinite energy cores. And he plugged all 6 of them into the big robot. And the big robot's really fucking powerful and can like... It's implied to have its own consciousness. It doesn't talk or move on its own, but it's implied to have its own like awareness of its existence or something. It has a will. Maybe not a voice, but it has a will. Something like that. Think of Fi after she like permanently goes inside the sword. It's sort of like that.
Sure.
So you know, it's crazy powerful. It can travel between dimensions. It can do whatever the fuck the plot says it can do. It can do whatever the plot wants it to do. Problem is,
this is beyond Monkey D. Luffy. This is Gear 6.
Yeah. So it's like, this thing is fucking wild, and it's powered by upper dimensional bullshit. So this summons the ghosts, who are just... It causes annihilation events or dematerialization events where just black holes just appear everywhere and just eat everything. And out of the black holes comes the ghosts that go around killing everyone. And him inventing this thing is what causes this to happen in that particular dimension. So Zamarian's basically like, yo, Void, you have ruined the entire universe for everyone. Fuck you. So what they do is, for some reason, they're against killing, right? Like, the concept of death is unknown to the Samarians. So instead of killing him, they lock him in a pocket dimension and stab him with a bunch of spears that basically lobotomize him, right?
Xeno spears?
Yeah. Like they literally impale him with make you stupid spears. And they needed six of them to stop the guy from breaking out, right?
That's convenient for whatever's about to happen in the rest of this plot.
Yeah. So they stabbed him with the make you stupid spears and locked him in a pocket dimension. And the player cast, like the main characters within the story are like, we really don't know what happened that this guy got out. Maybe the spears just weakened over time. Maybe some thing from some other dimension just sort of knocked things loose. So it's like, it's not overtly stated, but it's very heavily implied that Klaus blowing up his own reality on accident basically created shockwaves that knocked this guy out of space prison.
Yeah, alright.
So Klaus not only ruined his own dimension, and caused both, and because of how he did it, caused the two dimensions that formed from that mistake to then destroy themselves again, but he also accidentally released this other guy from another dimension who would go around destroying dimensions because for some reason he wants to know what death is, because like Samarians don't die. So it's like he's like, what the fuck? There's nothing I don't know. I am the fucking idiot. I am super smart. I've not been stabbed with the retardation sticks. I am the smartest guy ever, and that means I have to know everything. So I also have to know what death is, because that's like the one thing I don't know. Ha 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 ha. That's Void. He doesn't even go ha 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 ha. He's like the smug, it's only logical asshole, but he wants to know what this irrational thing is. He's a stupid villain, literally too, but like metaphysically, it's whatever.
I mean, I'm a pretty logical guy, and everything I've experienced with the Zohar has me wishing for death right now. So I get it, dude.
So yeah, he goes around from dimension to dimension killing everyone because he wants to know what death is, and he figures the best way to do that is to just make everyone die, and he can figure it out that way. Because he doesn't want to die. He wants to die, but he doesn't want to die because he's fucking stupid.
He does not know the concept of an any percent run.
Exactly.
Too much of a completionist.
So, eventually this brings him to Elma's homeworld, because Elma is not a human. The game wants you to think she's a human, but it foreshadows that she's actually not a human, and she is in fact not a human. She's an alien who has like lightish green, like the skin the color of olives, like not a metaphor for like people of like Asian descent, but like no, it's like actually olive colored. And her hair is made of blue crystals. Well, actually, it looks more like her hair is made of blue fiber optic cable, but like bundled up so it sort of looks like crystals, but it still sort of acts like hair. Her hair is made of shiny stuff. I'm just gonna leave it at that. So yeah, she's like, yeah, Void came, like, my people fucking dug up the Ares and jury-rigged it into being functional again. And, like, 2 days after that, Void showed up, threatening to kill all of us, trying to steal the Ares, and also ghosts appeared, and my entire world got eaten by black holes and blown up. So I have fled here to Earth with the Ares, because I am convinced that he's going to kill you next, because Void is trying to kill all of the descendants of the Samarians, because he's very petty. He acts like he's super duper logical, but he's kind of just a petty child, basically. So, I have brought the thing that they are trying to steal and will destroy countless planets to get a hold of. I have brought this to your planet now, and I'm going to give you technology to fight off the things that are following me. Very cool, Elma. Why didn't you just go to a different planet so they would leave us alone? I don't know. Then the game wouldn't happen. So you know, Elma accidentally...
That's why they had to stab him with the make bad decisions spears.
Exactly. So yeah, that's why Earth in Xenoblade X got blown up, and that's why they're here on Mira now, because they followed the White Whale, which is the name of their spaceship, to this new planet, and they really want the Ares, and they really want to kill humans, because human DNA just kills ganglion. It's not really explained how or why specifically, but like the organic human body can just kill them. I think it's supposed to work by touch, but it's unclear. And like the ganglion,
a really bad idea for a multi-blaster art.
So the ganglion, even without Void's weird, insane bullshit, really want humanity dead, because, you know, if humanity ever recovers Lifehold core and gets their original bodies back, the ganglion will just die. So it's like, wait, how did you guys not get mollywopped when you were fighting the entire planet? The answer is, Takahashi was writing one story, then 10 years passed, and he wrote a different story. That's the answer to that. It makes less sense the more you ask about how the fuck we went from here to here, you know? Because Chapters 1 through 12 was written to be Xenoblade X. Chapter 13 was written to be Xenoblade 10.
Yeah, they're just spinning their wheels.
Exactly. So, instead of following up on the things that made X unique, they just sort of did more multiverse bullshit, and then blew up, and then threw the thing that made X unique into a black hole.
That's kind of the same thing they did with 3, right? It's just people didn't mind because they didn't really like anything that was going on in 3.
3 is weird, because again, the universe...
It's just like Xenoblade X Future Redeemed, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, Future Redeemed was what people thought 3 was gonna be, but for realsies. And I prefer it over the main game of Xenoblade 3.
That's what I'm saying. You just don't hate chapters 1 through 12 enough to appreciate this DLC ending.
Well, it's the opposite, right? Like, Future Redeemed took a 3 that I really wasn't vibing with that much, and just said, fuck it, you want the big, dumb, fun crossover where really buff Rex and, like, Shulk LARPing as Dunban team up with their kids to go beat up Super God alongside an XP of Faye Fon Wong from Xenogears? Here you go. Here's the game you thought you were going to get when you saw the first trailer for Xenoblade 3. Here you go, have fun.
And Scrap looked up at Takahashi and said, thanks.
Yes.
I didn't really like that pizza anyway. It was kind of soggy.
It's like, you know, the main course was whatever, but this dessert is the greatest goddamn ice cream cake I've ever eaten, so all is forgiven. Meanwhile, Xenoblade X Chapter 13 is Takahashi breaking into my house in the middle of the night, taking my pumpkin pie, and switching out for another ice cream chocolate cake. And I'm like, look, I really like ice cream chocolate cake, but, you know, I also like pumpkin pie. The pumpkin pie was different. It was unique. I appreciate it for what it was. I am a bit upset that you stole my fucking pie and gave me another cake. And I like ice cream chocolate cake more than pumpkin pie, but I was not in the mood for ice cream chocolate cake at the time. I wanted that pumpkin pie, and you fucking took it away from me. And threw it into a goddamn black hole. What the fuck? That is how I feel about Chapter 13. If I pretend Chapters 1 through 12 don't exist, I love it. If I acknowledge the fact that 1 through 12 do exist, and that I liked what they were doing, and then Chapter 13, like, fucking shitting all over it, kinda has me upset, you know? And I can't pretend that Chapter 13 doesn't exist, because whatever the fuck they're trying to do in 13 in terms of the greater series meta plot, it's probably going to be important. So whenever Xenoblade 4 comes out and stuff from Chapter 13 starts popping up in it, I can't just pretend that 13 didn't happen. I have to acknowledge that, like, Mira is gone forever, and that's relevant now, instead of just me being able to sort of pretend it's not there, you know? I cannot live in the world where after completing Chapter 13, I reloaded my Chapter 12 save with New Game Plus basically enabled. Because, again, Chapter 13 ends with the entire planet getting literally destroyed, so after you finish it, the game is like, hey, we reverted the entire world back to the state it was after clearing Chapter 12. If you want to play through Chapter 13 again, you can, but, like, otherwise, the whole world thinks it hasn't happened yet. So go back to doing whatever post-game stuff you were doing. Ignore the fact that everything you do from now on is irrelevant, because it's all going to get thrown into a black hole. And that's what kind of killed any interest I had in mucking around with the rest of the post-game content. Because I'm like, wow, none of this matters. Everything's going to get thrown into a black hole within the quantum 2 weeks from now, but in narrative time rather than gameplay time sense. So it's like, why get invested? Why care?
I love Peace Walker.
Yep. So, Yeah, that is my 2-hour rant about Xenoblade X Definitive Edition. This has gone on for so long that Mr. Cowboy has fallen asleep listening to me.
It's fine. You see that that thing on his chest?
The ascot?
It's actually the conduit.
Oh my god! He has made contact with the wave existence. We're all gonna die!
Yeah.
Ah!
It's all wavy.
Oh no! No! This is my worst nightmare! Pile of salt TF! Ah!
You're so convincing.
Actually, I am the pile of salt! I'm so angry! Takahashi turned me and my pizza into a pile of salt! How dare he!
Yeah, there's just a fundamental difference of interest? Of focus? Like, kind of like what you said with that tech demo, there's the sense that everything that they're adding to this is either just fulfilling an obligation of what was missing, or setting up for whatever's next.
Yeah, but like, if that's what they wanted to do, they could have done it without throwing everything that X was originally doing into the dumpster. It genuinely feels like, you know, they did Xenoblade 1, they did Xenoblade X, and had big plans, but X did not do super well because it was stuck on the Wii U, which, so, relatively unsuccessful console.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, this reminds me of my least favorite piano playing manga that would make this a 3-hour video, so I'll stop there. Except just to say that the week it got cancelled from not Shonen Jump, but like C-list Shonen Jump.
Yeah.
The little boy who's like the main character, he gets possessed by his evil alter ego permanently.
Oh.
Changes all of his opinions on the nature of life and who he is as a person, and completely agrees with the villain's philosophy. It was still all in one chapter. Walks into his abusive dad's home and says, in what I can only imagine as like a 90s sitcom dad voice, "Father, I'm home," and punches him in the face.
And then it ends.
Yup. Just a guy throwing a tantrum that his project got axed before he could do anything with it.
Yeah.
And the dad fell in a hole.
Granted, I don't think that what happened with X ultimately was out of spite, per se. It's more...
Just a desire for closure.
Yeah, but like... They did not have to quite literally have like an actual end of the world plot arc to create closure. In many ways, X did have closure, you know? Like, if the original Wii U game did not end on 2 massive cliffhangers that they didn't have to add, you know? They did not have to add those cliffhangers, but they did. They clearly had plans to follow it up with something. But X did not do super well, and was on the console that did not do super well. And then when the Switch came out, they made Xenoblade 2, which was a direct follow-up to Xenoblade 1 instead of X. And 2...
Made so much money.
Yeah, 2 was like super duper ultra hyper successful. It remains the most divisive game in the series, which I think is fucking weird because I find 3 be way more divisive, all things considered, but 3 doesn't have the gigantic anime titties, so...
And also, I think anybody who hated 2 bad enough jumped ship there.
Yeah, like... The people who were really pissed off at 2 were like the hardcore 1 and also maybe X fans, who were just angry that 2 wasn't more of that. And instead was when Takahashi said, okay, let's fucking Perfect Works Attempt 3, let's go. That's more or less when he, like, went hardball, I think. There was implications that X was also supposed to be the start of Perfect Works Take 3. So I guess 2 is more like, alright, Perfect Works Take 4. Just kind of pretend that X didn't happen. Because that's kind of what the series did for a long time, right? It's like, 2 had Elma show up in the DLC, but that's just like standard fan service crap. You don't think about it too hard. Cosmos is here. How the fuck is Cosmos here, given what Cosmos is in her original series, you know?
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's just fan service. And then 3 is the whole fucking clusterfuck. And then Future Redeemed is when it goes, alright, full on baby, we're doing fucking Perfect Works Attempt 2. We're getting the fucking Xenosaga lore going. Buckle up, buckos. Prepare your asshole. Because 3 is, in many ways, like, even described by, like, Takahashi himself, the end of the quote-unquote Klaus saga, right? It's like, it's called that because everything in 1, 2, and 3, and now also X, is all Klaus's fault. He did a stupid thing with the God Machine, and somehow ruined multiple not just the one he thought he ruined, but also several ones in addition to that without even knowing about it. So, yeah. That's the end of the Klaus saga, and Takahashi, I guess, whatever his future plans are, they did not involve Mira in the slightest. They may have used to, but 10 years have gone by. He doesn't have any other plans for Mira, but he's also like, okay, if we don't do something about this, people won't shut the fuck up about it. So he threw it into a black hole so people would stop asking what the deal with Mira is. He's like, well, whatever the deal is, it doesn't matter. That universe is destroyed now. Moving on. And the final shot of X is they go through like the fucking Space Odyssey hallway where it's like a black line between like a big red wall of energy and a big blue wall of energy, and then they end up on a planet that's like, it's got like a big blue planet with like a big ring around it, like a space, like Saturn ring around it, right? Mm-hmm. But instead of like left to right, it's like top to bottom kind of looking thing, which like, it's space, you turn sideways and it's back normal, like whatever. And the implication is a convergence on Lost Jerusalem, which is a thing from Xenosaga. So, Future Redeemed, and not 3, which takes place after Future Redeemed canonically, but like at the end of Future Redeemed, like we see the cuts, like it's a flash forward cutscene basically, where they kind of like, you've already played the base game, we know you've played the base game, we're kind of montaging our way through all of that all at once in like the span of like 5 seconds to after 3 happened, right? Because like, and we see the universes merge, and then after they've merged into a single stable world, we see a blue light over in space, because like we're viewing this from like a space perspective, right? We see a blue light approaching the planet. At the end of Xenosaga 3, we cut to what is, okay, so Lost Jerusalem is like actually Earth, right? In the context of Xenosaga, humanity found the Zohar in the middle of Africa, and they were fucking around with it, and then the entire planet became lost. The birthplace of humanity is lost, that's why it's called Lost Jerusalem, right? So, and part of the problem is that, like, the universe in Xenosaga is slowly imploding. What's been happening is that the main villain of Xenosaga is this guy named Wilhelm, CEO of Vector Industries. He's actually some immortal Antichrist thing that has been initiating what is known as the Eternal Recurrence, which is a thing from Nietzsche.
You said he was a CEO, so anyway.
So yeah. So, he's this immortal guy, and he's like, right around, and he's like, basically he's like, right around this point in the timeline, all of, okay, so there, I mentioned the upper domain a couple of times. There's several, like, the upper domain has several entities in it, but it's basically the collective unconsciousness. as well as just other dimensions. It's a lot of stuff all at once, basically, but it's the esoteric bullshit dimension. That's what it is. And when people die, their souls or whatever join the collective unconsciousness, unless they don't. Because there's just enough people that are willful enough to refuse to become part of it, and they, in the context of Xenosaga, become these things known as Gnosis. And Gnosis are like really bad. They like dissolve reality around them, right? So, and as time has gone on, there have been more and more Gnosis floating around within the upper domain, not part of the collective unconsciousness, but taking up space in it, basically. Mm-hmm. And there's more and more of them. They're growing increasingly powerful, and they're getting restless in an increasingly cramped space. So eventually, they breach into the lower domain, just like Earth and stuff. Like the physical world with like laws of physics and stuff. They eventually kind of overflow into reality, and eventually destroy everything. And Wilhelm is like, this is impossible to stop, but what I can do is build a fancy magical bullshit machine that will just rewind time to the start of time. So, like, we can't survive past this point, but if I initiate a literal eternal recurrence, we can technically live infinitely, because even if we're doing the same thing over and over again, we aren't getting obliterated by space cancer, basically. And I don't mean like space cancers and people in space getting cancer. I mean like...
No, space itself has cancer.
Yeah. And Xenosaga 3 ends with two things happening. First, they destroy Zarathustra, which is what basically kicks off the eternal recurrence. Because what's been happening basically is that, like, there's this guy named Chaos he's not Jesus, but he's like Jesus' really close friend, who's like the actual thing that has weird bullshit powers. So Jesus Christ is a canonical character in Xenosaga, and it's sort of implied he's literally just a guy who is grifting everyone, and like the actual super god thing is this tan twink who he's just really good buddies with, and is like, and it's probably consensual. Like, Chaos is probably going, hey, I'm gonna use my weird bullshit powers, make everyone think it's you doing it, so that people leave me alone, because I want to help, but I don't want people fucking worshipping me all the time, so, you're gonna be my proxy. I think that's sort of what's happening, but I might also just be wrong. All I know is that they made a character model of actual fucking, like, Abraham Jesus man for one cutscene.
And then he fights the Buddha from Fate Extra.
Yes. Probably. I honestly don't know what the fuck Chaos actually is supposed to be, but it's sort of implied that he, like, he's, like, one of, like, 1.5 people who are retaining their memories between each iteration. And he's just kind of gotten sick of this shit. So he's like, I'm fucking done with this. Hey, Shion, do you want to, like, not do the eternal recurrence? Because Shion is also important, because she's like the reincarnation of this one person who is really close to Mary Magdalene, who is also really important. It's been a while since I've played 3, but the answer to everything is that it's either Zohar, Jesus as like a guy with weird extra-dimensional powers, or fucking, I don't know, There's an NPC in Xenosaga 3 who is literally just Faye from Xenogears. It's kind of implied that Xenogears just happens sometime after Saga 3, where they invent another fucking Zohar, and then it turns bad, so they throw it out into space, and then Xenogears happens off in some little corner of the greater Xenosaga plot. But it's like, they can't canonically say that because Xenogears is owned by Square Enix. because they weren't their own development studio when they made Gears. It's that they made Gears, got fucked over by Square policies, and said, fuck you, we're gonna make our own company and do it again, but like do it our way, and then floundered until recently.
That's right, it goes in the square hole.
Yes. Everything made by Takahashi is just him attempting to finally finish Perfect Works. Which is basically his setting guidebook that he made for what the fuck is supposed to be happening in Xenogears. It has morphed and twisted a bit, but everything is Perfect Works at the end of the day. You just don't know it yet. The problem is, with the way that Xenoblade X was made and written, none of it had any fucking traces of Perfect Works besides vague, like, referential allusions in the nods of, haha, this is our previous game that we worked on, rather than being an actual plot-relevant thing. But then they suddenly...
Is Aloys the narrator of Perfect Works?
What?
Is Aloys gonna be like the viewpoint character who's like, I wrote this book called Perfect Works.
No, well...
Let me tell you about Gears.
Well, actually, maybe, because again, Alois entered the upper domain. He got into a fight so epic while inside of the super robot that he transcended reality into an upper dimension where he canonically was able to witness all of the events of Xenoblades 1, 2, and 3, probably a bunch of other stuff too, and then he came back to Mira to, help it not be destroyed, except that him coming back is what caused the ghosts and Void to follow him, so it's like, nice going, idiot. If you just stayed in the upper dimension, then none of us would be in this mess that we are currently in. I forgot to talk about Lao. Okay, so, right, Lao dies, right? He dies at the end of the game, but he wakes up on the beach, and everyone's like, what the fuck? And then the game ends before it's answering what the fuck they just saw. So, Alois has a cutscene where he's like, so hey, on the way back to Earth, I made a stop in this one dimension, and Lao was there, and he was like kind of depressed, but like he's not alive somewhere in some corner of the planet. That was just like his soul, and his soul is just on a beach, and I think it's purgatory, but I'm not certain on that. Anyway, Lynn, he told you to like be alive, and so it's like, okay, so he was never alive, and that entire thing was just completely pointless. Takahashi did not feel like answering what the fuck was going on with Lao, so he just said, he's literally just in the afterlife, so that he can be talked to for one cutscene. Oh, you thought he was alive somewhere? You thought some crazy shit was gonna happen in Xenoblade 2? Xenoblade X 2? Nah, fam, we're just throwing we're doing Perfect Works, idiot. I cannot be fucked to answer this 10-year plot hole. We're just gonna sweep it under the rug. Because again, Xenoblade X had jack all to do with everything else happening, and after 10 years, Takahashi just didn't want to fucking answer it, so he just blew up the entire setting, and then just shoved all the main characters into what is presumably whatever the fuck Xenoblade 4 is going to be.
Nah, I think they're going to be the Xenoblade 2 remake DLC chapter.
There's no shot that the next thing they do is a remake of Xenoblade 2. You can still buy it on the Virtual Console, and even on the Switch 2, it's probably going to be on that system's Virtual Console as well.
Okay.
They remade Xenoblade 1 because your options for that were either the rare and expensive Wii version or the kind of the really bad 3DS, the new 3DS port, because it doesn't even work on a regular 3DS. It has to be like the new one, because they ported it onto that thing, and I hear it looks even worse. And this is already like a kind of not great looking Wii game. It's impressive that they fit this many big open environments on the Wii, but it's not pretty. And Definitive Edition both makes it readily available to everyone who wants to finally play the Shulk game, but also makes it look good. So that's why that one exists. This one exists because
that one.
the Wii version of Xenoblade?
No, the Switch one.
Oh, it's good. I'm sorry for spoiling it in the most schizophrenic lore explanation ever.
Well, that is kind of the upside of your explanation being so fucking slipshod. Is you spoiled so many games, I can't tell which of those games was Xenoblade 1.
All of the spoilers I gave you are stuff from the literal final cutscene that's just explaining how the fuck any of this happened in the first place, rather than anything to do with the actual plot of the game, basically.
Yeah, but I don't care about that. I care the Fiora's really cute, and Eloise, Alfonso, Alfredo pizza.
Alois Bernholt!
Yeah, I did burn my hole on the pizza. Is a goddamn hero. He saved the Star Fox franchise.
His first Affinity mission is him asking the player character to have a duel with him. And when you fight him, he's like, hey, let's make this thing interesting. Let's place bets. And one of the options that the player can pick is saying, hey, if I win, give me the super god robot. And he's like, oh shit, you're just gonna take it? And you're like, yeah, I want the fucking super god robot. I've been the protagonist for 10 years. Who the fuck are you? Just show up out of nowhere and become everyone's new favorite character. And he's like, damn, you're right. Okay, yeah, if you win, you'll get it. But like, it only works for an organic body, so it's like, I don't know what you expect to accomplish with this. And then you beat him, and he's like, alright, you're pretty good, I'll admit, but I can't give you the Ares yet, because you have to know love to use it. Love. And he's not talking.
Calls you a virgin and walks away.
No, he specifically says, I'm not talking about marriage or like romance. I'm talking about love of life itself, of the world itself.
Throw that in there, or else Rex would come in through a portal and punch him in the face, and he'd fall into a black hole.
Until you understand how to, until you really and truly love life and the world itself, you cannot use the Ares. And again, it literally will not function unless it has an organic person inside it. And need I remind you, you are a robot body being piloted from somewhere. We have no fucking idea where, but somehow. And the big twist is that the white whale with powering everyone, like fucking everyone remote controlling their bodies. The big twist is, actually, your mind/souls have been inside the collective consciousness upper domain this entire time, and you've just been remote piloting your robot bodies from there, not the Lifehold core. It's like, yo. Okay, cool. Hello, Maui.
You just called me fat.
You're on YouTube.
Hello.
Yes, you are on YouTube. I have spent the last 2 hours very poorly explaining Xenoblade.
Oh.
But just the worst parts.
Yes.
Just the most convoluted indulgences.
Remember to like and subscribe, goddamn you.
Basically, I have spoiled the hour-long exposition cutscenes from the ends of the various games without it all going into the actual plot of the games.
So scrap.
Yes?
I want to be a cowboy, baby.
How's it popping?
Terrible. How about you?
Better than you. Terrific.
I think that's a wrap, folks.
Yep.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Smash that bell like it's the Xenoblade continuity.
The video. Like the video. Like the video.
Well, I'll see you all next time, baby.